Over the past couple weeks, Eddie Hearn has said on numerous occasions that if the opportunity arises, he would like to bid for Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 2. And he said that he believes they would bid more than anybody else. When I say they, I'm talking about Hearn with DAZN using their money. However, in this interview right here, which was published on February 6th, a couple days ago, Eddie Hearn is now saying that he expects to lose a purse bid for Wilder Fury 2. So he's changed his tune. All of a sudden he's saying we'd probably lose that bid, but we'd still bid for it. Why the sudden change? I think the explanation is very simple. Up until a week or so ago, the front runner to face Anthony Joshua on April 13th was Dillian Whyte. That fight was going to be at Wembley. That fight was going to be in the UK. Sky Sports were going to be the ones putting up most of the money for that fight. A certain amount of money would have come in from international broadcasters, but the vast majority of the money, which would have paid the purses and paid for the show for Joshua versus Whyte at Wembley, it would have been paid for by Sky. That fight has now been scrapped. Now it looks as though AJ is going to fight Jarrell Miller in the United States. And in that instance, as has been reported in the press, it's going to be DAZN who are fronting up most of the money for AJ versus Miller. This is going to eat into Eddie Hearn's DAZN budget because AJ doesn't come cheap. The reports are that he could earn anywhere between 25 and 30 million pounds for the Jarrell Miller fight, plus Jarrell Miller's purse on top of that. Now, Anthony Joshua is not a big name in the United States. I am almost certain that the AJ Miller show is a loss-making show. DAZN are going to lose money on that show. But the reason that they're willing to lose money on that show is because long term, they think that they can recoup money on AJ. They believe, or at least they're going to try, to build him as a star in the United States. And in the long run, recoup the money they've invested. But they're spending a lot of cash, similar to Al Heyman. You know, when Al Heyman first started the PBC, he bought up airtime on multiple different television networks. And he was putting fights on everywhere. He was trying to saturate the market. That was a loss-making endeavor. He lost money doing that. But he felt like he needed to do it in order to establish the PBC brand. Eddie Hearn and DAZN are doing a similar thing. AJ versus Miller, I'm sure, will make a loss. But they're willing to do it to establish AJ and the DAZN brand in the United States. However, this loss and this large amount of money that they're going to spend on AJ versus Miller eats into the DAZN budget that Eddie Hearn has. And I'm sure he has a budget for each year. I know the budget overall over 8 years is supposed to be 1 billion, but that's going to be divvied up into a yearly budget. And therefore, he's not going to have as much money left over to bid for a Wilder Fury 2. I think it's as simple as that. If AJ had fought Dillian Whyte in the UK at Wembley, a fight which Sky would have paid for, I think Eddie Hearn would have had more money to bid for Wilder Fury 2, which is an American fight. That would have helped DAZN a lot if Wilder Fury 2 was on DAZN. You know, but like I say, now they've got AJ fighting Miller. Not so much money to play with this year, 2019, as there would have been if, they wouldn't have been if they hadn't put on AJ Miller in the United States. So yeah, hopefully you understand what I'm talking about there. That's my interpretation of why Eddie Hearn seems to have changed his tune with regards to this purse bid. Now, you get some of these purse bid watchers, people who run around saying, oh my God, Eddie Hearn lost the purse bid. Oh my God, you see he's lying about all the money he has. He lost the purse bid for Kid Galahad. He lost the purse bid for Maurice Hooker. constantly banging on about how Eddie Hearn is losing purse bids. Let me educate some of you on basic business. You do not just bid crazy amounts of money for a fight if, just because you have the money. You bid normally what you think a fight is worth because you're trying to make a profit. Yeah, especially when neither fighter is under your banner, under your promotional control. But even if you have a fighter under your promotional control, like Kid Galahad for Eddie Hearn, you bid as much as you think his fight with Josh Warrington is worth. Josh Warrington is selling out stadiums for Frank Warren. Kid Galahad is not selling out stadiums for Eddie Hearn. Do you seriously think that Eddie Hearn looks at Kid Galahad and sees him as valuable to him as Josh Warrington is to Frank Warren? Of course not. Eddie Hearn doesn't see that much value, and probably Sky don't see that much value in Warrington versus Galahad, particularly given the fact that if Warrington wins the fight and it was on Sky Sports, that would benefit Frank Warren massively. Massively. Right? His fighter would then get exposure on this Sky platform, because he used to be on Sky. He'd get extra exposure on the Sky platform. Then he'd be going back to BT Sport with Frank Warren, benefiting from all that exposure that he got on the Sky platform. And yes, Eddie Hearn and Sky may have made some money on the show, but in the long run, it will be Warrington benefiting from it. Now, if Galahad wins, is Galahad really a star? How long is it going to take to build Galahad into the kind of ticket seller that Warrington is, to justify paying crazy money for his fight against Warrington in a purse bid? Do you understand? So a purse bid is about how much you think a fight is worth. It's not about how much money you have in your bank. Do you really think Eddie Hearn doesn't have more than 1 or 2 million, whatever it was he bid for Warrington Galahad? Of course he's got more money than that. But he doesn't think the fight is worth any more than what he bid. And I'll give you an example, particularly for the Wilder fanboys, because they tend to be the most voracious purse bid watchers. If we go back a few years here, what year was this? It says it's 2016. Deontay Wilder was outbid in a purse bid against Povetkin. You guys remember this? The winning bid was just over $7 million. That was the winning bid. Wilder's team only bid about $5 million. Now, Wilder's team are bankrolled by Al Heyman. Are you trying to tell me that Al Heyman only has $5 million? Of course he's got more than that. But at the time, Deontay Wilder's market value was considerably lower than it is now. So Al Heyman wasn't willing to bid any more than $5 million. Because he's trying to recoup. Do you understand? And even if he is making an investment, because you might be involved in a purse bid situation where you believe in the fighter and you believe in his star potential and you want to make an investment and, you're willing to make a little bit of a loss to gain in the long run, you're still not going to put crazy money in most instances. You might pay a little bit more than the fight is worth, but you don't want to make an enormous loss. You want to try and minimize the loss you're making if you see it as an investment. So here is an example. Deontay Wilder, backed by Al Heyman, they only put $5 million up back in 2016 for the Povetkin fight. Where was Al Heyman's tens of millions? He had it back then. He could have got it. All right. Or he at least had the investors who had it, who were willing to pay him the money for the right fight. But for his investors and, Al Heyman, this was not the right fight to be bidding more than $5 million for. This is just simple business. It's very straightforward. It's not a case of Al Heyman lying that he doesn't have the money. It's not a case of Eddie Hearn lying because, Eddie Hearn talks about having this huge budget. I'm sure he does have a huge budget, but he's not going to try and win every single purse bid. Some purse bids, he's going to lose them. He's going to concede even before the purse bid has happened, just like he did with Galahad Warrington. He conceded that we're probably going to lose this bid. And he's also now conceding with Wilder Fury 2 that if we do bid, we'll probably lose. This is what he's saying. And again, in that instance, I think it's more to do with his DAZN budget for 2019, because they're going to make a loss on the AJ versus Miller show. And, I don't see how they can't make a loss on AJ versus Miller. I don't see how they can't make a loss. It's not going to be pay-per-view in the US. It will be pay-per-view in the UK, but it will be at silly o'clock in the morning. How many people are going to stay up and watch it? In the US, it's not going to be pay-per-view. It's going to be part of the DAZN subscription. You pay your $10. You get AJ versus Miller along with a bunch of other fights for that month. That's going to make a loss. Yeah. In business, you often make a loss in your first couple years of trading. Building up your client base, your customer base, your subscriber base, whatever the case may be. But after a couple years trading, if you've got the right business model, and if you've read the market correctly, you should start making a profit. Al Heyman has refined his business model with PBC, and I'm sure it's much more efficient and much more economically viable now than when he first started out with PBC. He's had to change his business model. He's had to tweak it change it quite dramatically, actually, in order to make it work and make it viable long term. DAZN may have to change their model long term. We'll see. But again, this is the reason I think Eddie Hearn has changed his tune in the past couple of days with regards to the Wilder Fury rematch purse bid. It's no coincidence that in the last few days, Dillian Whyte has turned down the AJ fight, and that's why Hearn has changed his tune, because now they're going to have to do AJ versus Miller in the States, and that's going to eat into his DAZN budget, so they're not going to have as much money in 2019 to bid for Wilder versus Fury. Simple as that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, especially the purse bid watchers. Let me know what you guys think about that. You see, I've never been a big purse bid watcher. I might comment on purse bids here and there, but I'm not somebody who says, "Oh, see, he lost the purse bid. That's not what I'm about. Usually when I talk about purse bids, I'll mention situations like this where Al Heyman has lost purse bids. Everybody loses purse bids. There's nobody out there, there's no promoter out there who's not going to lose purse bids. Of course they are. Because, they're not going to put all of their financial resources into every purse bid. That doesn't make any business sense. That's insane. Yeah. They may be willing to make a loss on certain fights if they have a contract with a fighter and they see that fighter as a long-term investment. They'll say, okay, let's take a hit on this one, but we believe in this fighter. He's with us long-term. Down the road, we'll recoup our money and make a profit on it. So that does happen sometimes. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about everything I've discussed in this video. It's happening, I'm out.
Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.